Hello and welcome to your weekly card pull. My name is Alexa. Today I'm doing a reading for the week of October 20th through October 26th, 2024. This reading is predominantly channeled for my Capricorns. However, if you just feel called to this reading and you don't have major Capricorn placements, please feel free to stay tuned because there's probably a few nuggets in here for you. I have two different decks that I pulled from today. I have one from a tarot deck and one from an oracle deck. I'm going to start out with tarot and talk a little bit about what came up there. And then the oracle deck I think is going to be a little bit of additional perspective, things that you might want to keep in mind moving into this upcoming week, things that might be helpful or help you to navigate any challenges that might arise. So my dears, the first deck that I pulled from was my Ethereal Visions tarot deck. And I pulled for you guys, most importantly, the Two of Swords. And this card comes up anytime there is a decision that we have to make. We are weighing two different options, two different paths. If you look at the card closely, you can see that the woman is blindfolded and she's holding two different swords. Again, those swords are implying that she's weighing two different things. They're seemingly pretty balanced, so it does seem like this is something that's going to require a lot of conscious thought as well as intuition. The moon that's up in the corner also implies a need to utilize your intuition in this situation. So it does feel like for many of you, you're going to be weighing different options and trying to figure out which path do I want to take. And it's not necessarily going to be a very crystal clear, like, do I want to do this or do I want to do this? Which is why the cards that I pulled from the Oracle deck I think might be helpful because they're going to provide a little bit of coloring on that. I wanted to do something kind of funky. After I pulled this card, I wanted to pull two more to see what are the things that we might be weighing or the things that we might be looking at. And the first card that came out was the Two of Pentacles, and the second card that came out was the Ace of Wands. So in this schematic, if you will, it appears that for a lot of you, you're going to be weighing an option of either juggling some priorities, i.e. doing a few different things at once. Maybe you're adding something to your plate, or deciding if you want to maybe release one of those obligations, release one of those tasks to open up space for you to focus solely on one thing. And that would be the Ace of Wands card and what this is implying. Something to keep in mind when it comes to the Two of Swords. The woman is blindfolded, which is some people argue that this is an implication that she may be avoiding the situation, or this may be a situation that you have avoided for a very long time. And a big encouragement with this is to understand if you are hiding from making this choice, if you're trying to avoid it, and to also understand that the avoidance is going to eventually lead to stagnation if you don't do something about it. And that's not to provide pressure or to add weight or anything. It's just an acknowledgement of whatever situation you're in right now. If you're trying to figure out, like, do I do this or do I do this? It'll probably be better for you to just make a decision one way, figure out a plan of attack for that, and then also if that path doesn't necessarily work out the way that you want, or if it doesn't go as smoothly as you want or whatever, have an exit plan or an exit strategy in mind. So for those of you, if you're in a position where you're like, I think I'm going to take on multiple tasks, or I'm going to do a lot more than just this one thing, maybe you're thinking of adding something to your plate, then I would encourage you to have an exit strategy wherein you realize, okay, at this point, if it's too overwhelming, here's the evidence of how it might be too overwhelming. At this point is the point when I'm going to exit or decide to pivot. So you're not necessarily locking yourself into one specific pathway for good. And I think that that's really important, especially if you are in a position where you're maybe avoiding making a decision, is to allow yourself the forgiveness in this space to understand that whatever you choose, there's still a way out. And if that way doesn't work for you, make sure that you have an exit strategy or something in mind so that you don't feel like you're just in this position of, well, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. And then you never actually make a decision. So you never make a commitment to a course either way. I feel like making the commitment to a course either way is ultimately what's going to be the most important, not so much which path you choose to take. Because as noted with this card and with the balance of the swords, there is a balance between these things. It's not like one is very clearly the right answer and one is very clearly the wrong answer. So this is something that does require a lot of thought. Also, again, as noted, because there is the moon present in this card, your intuition is going to be very important in making this decision. And there is a lot of power that's going to come from using that as an aid in making your choice. You don't want to rely solely on intuition. You want to take into consideration logic and fact and the rational mind, but you also don't want to just think with your head and completely exclude what your heart is saying to you. Now, because I talked a little bit about the Two of Pentacles, I want to go a little bit more deeply into the Ace of Wands and what this card means. Ace of Wands, any ace card is kind of the beginning of a new cycle, the beginning of something fresh. So for some of you, this may be a new venture. If it's not necessarily a new venture, it's likely a venture in something that provides a level of inspiration for you, maybe opens the door for some new opportunities. This can also imply a level of growth or potential if you notice the wand is sprouting some leaves. So this is something that will or could possibly lead to a lot of growth. There's a lot of possibility, and I feel like a lot of the allure with this choice is that it is something that has a lot of potential for you. So just keep in mind, again, that doesn't mean that you have to necessarily pick one or the other for good. It's just a matter of what decision do you want to make? How do you want to invest your energy, and being really decisive about what you want for that to look like. One last thing to consider before I move into the oracle is that if you are in this position and this is resonating with you, a very, very big encouragement is to allow yourself to take a step away from the decision before you actually make the decision. Now, I want to be very clear about this. This is not the same thing as blindfolding yourself, walking away from it, ignoring it, taking a strategy of avoidance, because that's going to ultimately lead to stagnation. This is more talking about allowing yourself to take a step back, meditate, reconnect very deeply with the deepest parts of yourself, especially your intuition. That is a very, very important and key component of this entire debacle, honestly, is getting very clear. So I would definitely encourage you, if you are feeling like you're in a position where you're like, I really don't know what to do, I'm starting to stress out, I don't know what the fuck decision I want to make, what direction do I go in, I don't know what's right. The encouragement is to take a step back, meditate, allow yourself to breathe. With the Two of Pentacles, and I'm going to just apply this as a general theme as well, because I feel like thematically this energy is really important. With the Two of Pentacles, this is an encouragement to balance your priorities and to understand that your wellness is a priority in the totality of everything. So if something is so straining to you that you don't have capacity for yourself, then I would take this as a message or an encouragement to take a step back so you can re-level, refocus, and then come at it from a centered place rather than making a decision from a sporadic or seemingly like rushed kind of a place. You want to allow yourself the time of day. Whatever you have to do, if that means you take a sick day, if that means you sit down and meditate, if that means you cancel your plans for the weekend and go spend some time with yourself to get some clarity, whatever you have to do, that I would say is probably of utmost importance. And then finally, with the Ace of Wands, this card also comes with messages of creativity. So anything that feels like it gets your creative juices flowing might be something worth putting your energy into. Maybe as a part of this step back and reevaluation process, you do something that you used to do that wakes up your inner child, or something that you used to love, like painting or dancing, or something that's gonna kind of evoke this creative spirit. I feel like if you're in a decision where you're already weighing between these two things, acting out on that creative energy, whether or not you choose to go into that path as like your quote unquote path, that creative energy is there for a reason. So I would definitely encourage you to tap into that and to make use of it and to make light of it. Okay, my dears, so moving into Oracle, I pulled from my Moonology deck, and all of these cards are inspired by phases of the moon. So I pulled 3. I'm gonna go in order with these. So the first one that came out, that I feel like all of these kind of come down to this theme of your sense of enoughness and your relationship to yourself. And maybe that is something that is influencing your decision. And I will say point blank, very honestly, a lot of this applies to my own personal life. So I know that for me, this energy is very, very big and very, very prevalent right now. The first card that I pulled was the full moon in Virgo. This card comes with the message of you are good enough. I feel like for some of you, that message alone is really all you need to hear, honestly, out of this reading. Feel free to keep listening. For some of you, it feels like that is a hugely important piece that you really should be paying attention to. Anytime that this card comes up, it can imply that you might be underrating yourself or undervaluing yourself. It's also coming with a message that says that you don't have to necessarily like flash this enoughness. You don't have to flash your personality. You don't have to be super boisterous or loud about it. But there is an importance for you to be quietly certain that you have what it takes, that you are good enough. The energy of Virgo is really beautiful because it is really centralized around refinement, and the shadow side of this can be perfectionism. So if you are in a position where you're like, I have to be perfect. If I'm not perfect, I'm not good enough. Especially if you are in, I want to say like 29 to 30 age group. A lot of people in that arena, we have our Chiron and Virgo. So perfectionism can be a really challenging piece. I am one of those people. So if that is something that you are experiencing, just understand that this energy isn't all a bad thing. Like refinement is beautiful. Refinement is something that enables us to perfect our craft or to get to a place of mastery. That being said, if there is too much of it or if it's taken out of hand, it can lead to perfectionist tendencies, which end up getting to the point where they're debilitating and you can't actually do the things that you want to do. So this could cause some level of blockages. So if you're feeling blocked or anything, honestly ask yourself, have I been too picky either with the people around me or with myself? Am I being too picky about my work? And keep in mind a very big message, which actually came through with all of these cards for the Oracle book, or the Oracle pull, is this concept of worry and understanding that worrying will end up creating more worrying. So if you're in a state where you're just worried about how people are going to receive you or if you are good enough, a mantra that you can carry with you is that you are good enough. Say this to yourself every day. Write it on a post-it note, stick it on your mirror, give yourself a high five. Thank you, Mel Robbins, for that tip. Even if it feels stupid and you're like, why am I doing this? The more that you expose yourself to this narrative, the easier it's going to be for you to take that on and kind of enable that to be a truth of your own, of saying, yes, I am good enough. Yes, I have what it takes. And that will hopefully open up a little bit of space and a little bit of energy for you to actually move forward towards the things that maybe per the Two of Swords you have been avoiding or not necessarily moving forwards towards in the fashion that you have wanted to or feel like you would like to. Okay, closing that one. Moving into the next card, I pulled the new moon in Taurus. This card comes up ironically anytime we are doubting ourselves. So these two cards are both really kind of pointing at a very similar theme here. Advice with this card, Taurus energy is a little bit more grounded in action. It's a little bit more practical. So a lot of the energy from this one is encouraging you to make a practical plan. I do feel like this is speaking to the aspect of the tarot pull that's encouraging you to utilize your rational mind, making plans and really like getting clear on what you want. And also, again, with this card, because it has themes of self-doubt that might be laced in your experience, there is an encouragement of getting to a place where you can believe in yourself. This may require you to take a step back, which is again why that might be an important thing for you to do this upcoming week. This may be a matter of going to see a therapist or talk with your therapist about something that's going on, journaling, doing some kind of meditative work, hypnotherapy, oracle readings, tarot readings, whatever. Feel free to reach out to me if you want a reading. Like there's something in here that might be encouraging you to get back in touch with yourself. And that could also be your body. Another message with this card, ironically, I got really loudly for someone, like get a massage, do some self-care, do some things that are going to enable you to just, some of you just need to relax, honestly. That's really what that's coming down to. And then for some of you, if your decision is involving something that has to do with work or finances, understanding what it is that you need to do. This is where the 12-month plan becomes important, because if you know what you want, but you don't have a plan for it, that's potentially going to feel really chaotic and you're not necessarily going to want to lean towards it. Again, just because you have a plan doesn't necessarily mean it has to go everything according to plan, but having that structure, i.e. a 12-month plan, it's kind of like a cycle where if you do the thing that says, I have what it takes, then you're going to believe I have what it takes. And if you believe you have what it takes, then you're going to do the thing that says you have what it takes. So it is a little bit cyclical. So this is definitely encouraging you to take a little bit more of, I'm going to call it the Nike approach of like just doing it, starting to make plans, starting to put things in action and being really practical about those. There's also an encouragement here, again, if this is financial or business related, especially to start a standing order to a savings account, no matter how small, even if it's like $10 a month. But if it's not something that you're already doing, make sure that you are getting your ducks in a row financially and setting plans for that. That might help bring you a little bit more peace of mind, especially if things have been feeling particularly scattered and chaotic. And finally, for you, my dears, I also pulled the full moon in Scorpio. I pulled this card in the reverse. So in the upright, she looks like this. Again, the message of worry comes through with this card and says that worrying is pointless. It will be much more in service to you to begin focusing on releasing negativity, releasing grudges, letting go of something that's toxic. This could be a dynamic. This could be a belief system. This could be a belief system about yourself. This could be a way that you are talking to yourself, maybe habits of saying, I'm not good enough. I don't know, for some of you that might be the case. So getting to a place where you're ready to let something go. This could be one of the two responsibilities. If that doesn't feel right to you and it feels like, no, I want to have multiple priorities, then letting go of the aspects of yourself that are saying, I cannot do this and I do not have what it takes to do whatever this path is, XYZ, that you decide that you want to walk. Last thing with this card, there is an encouragement to emote. Better out than in is a really big theme of this. In the process of releasing these things, you may want to be involved with something like talk therapy, again, journaling, whether or not you're like verbally speaking it. I feel like for a lot of people, verbally speaking something has a lot of power, but if that doesn't feel good to you, or if you're not in a position where you want to do that, just journal, get it out, be creative, dance it out, art it out. Going back to that point of doing something creative might help you to release some of the blockages that might be preventing you from making ultimately the best decision for yourself. Yeah, I feel like this is a really exciting week for you guys. There are some decisions to be made potentially, and some paths that you could possibly take. There's no right or wrong answer. I want to make that very clear. Your focus right now should not be figuring out what is the right answer. The focus should be figuring out what is the right answer for you. And it's not necessarily going to be one or the other, but I feel like your perspective on how you're going to approach it might be the thing that matters the most. So put some time, some love, some energy into coming to that conclusion naturally, allowing yourself to utilize your rational mind as well as your intuition. And I feel like you're gonna come out feeling a lot more at peace than if you just blindly dive into one or the other or avoid it altogether. So I love you guys so much. Thank you, my dears, so much for tuning in. If you have questions, want clarification on anything, please feel free to reach out to me. I love hearing from you guys. And if you haven't already, but you found this helpful, or you think that you might need some guidance or perspective in the future, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. I am posting these readings every single week. I will probably be posting some other content too coming up. And finally, if you found this helpful or if it resonated, please feel free to leave me a little comment with what resonated the most, or at the very least, just a little thumbs up. All right, I love you guys. Thank you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers and have a good one. Bye.